So Tom, everybody just heard your dad, Zig Ziglar's clip about how many choices we have. He said, and he literally said, there's 50,000 ways to earn a living. I didn't go back to see when that recording was, but if we can assume it was 15 years ago, could be longer, that he recorded that. If there's 50,000 ways to earn a living, what are there today? 50 million? I don't know. I mean, it's, that much more. But, the bigger thing I think was towards the question I asked, just so many things that we can say yes to in the activities of life. So as I asked this question, well, I'll repeat it again. If you were offered an opportunity of a lifetime that required you to stop one or two of your daily or weekly tasks, duties, and roles, what would you consider letting go of or deleting? And I was basing that off of Zig talking about eliminating things that are not really that important in life. And I want to put it in the framework of they may be good things. Let's even take away whether we call them important or not, but they may be good things. But if there's too many good things, we don't have time for the great things in life. So one possibility is I asked the question really poorly. That's always a possibility. I ask it poorly, whatnot, because I posted that question for this show and ultimately got 2 responses. I posted another one for another show and I looked at it right around the same time. I looked at it. It's now got over 72 responses. So I'm going to assume that either one, I ask it poorly, but I feel like even if I ask it poorly, I have enough people looking at these things, I would have gotten more responses. Or it's one that people don't want to, it's not a popular thing to think about. It's not something that we like to do. I'm not sure. Actually, let me just throw that at you. Why do you have any thoughts on why people didn't pony up to answer that question? Did I ask it too obtusely, or do we really look at my quandary is, do we look at our lives? I mean, you've got your life, you've made decisions, you've kind of got it in a somewhat of a sustainable comfort zone. And you don't really want to look at getting rid of anything, saying no to anything, creating boundaries, limiting something. I don't know. Give me your thoughts, because I'm unsure.
Yeah, this is an interesting category of question, because the assumption is we all want to do less of the unproductive things and more of the productive things. I mean, that's the assumption that we get into, but then we look at our patterns and our habits and we choose unproductive things constantly. When I was brand new, working at the company, probably 5 years in, maybe a little longer, we did a time and motion study of our salespeople. And in this scenario, this was back when computers were new and software was slow and hardware was really slow. We bought this computer program for our salespeople. And when they would sell something on the phone, they would then turn around and take it from the written page and they would type it into the computer and submit their order. It was all electronic. Everything was cool. Everybody was in love with all the innovation that was going on. But what we discovered is that the average salesperson back then was getting 20 orders a day, and it took between 3 and 4 minutes to enter that order. So they were spending an hour a day in doing that. So we made a great leadership decision. We said, you know what? Accounting, they're more accurate. They've got faster computers, and they can enter that same order in less than a minute. So we created an hour of time for our salespeople. And I knew that, because I knew what our averages were. I knew how many calls the average person made in a day, how many of those calls turned into conversations, how many of those conversations turned into orders, how long all that took. And so I knew that I was going to add 12.5% of revenue just by that one decision, because we were going to take away a non-productive time and replace it with a productive time. And guess what happened? Zero.
I'm going to say nothing, even though the math seems perfect.
Salespeople, they got an hour-long break, right? Because they were engineered to have so many conversations, so many calls, everything during that time. And sales stayed exactly the same. And so that might have been kind of my first inkling of that quote that's the anchor of Choose to Win, which is the fastest way to success is to replace a bad habit with a good habit. And so that means that people, when they look at that question, they have to think, what's my purpose? What's my why? What's the ultimate thing that I'm striving for? I need to do more of that. And just a lot of people haven't really thought through it, because if you're a salesperson and you're going to be there for 8 hours anyway, because back then we paid salary plus commission, you had to be there working from A to B, right? It was back in the good old days when our phone rang and people had to be there, and we had structure, and you would think, well, I got to be there anyway. I might as well make more money. So,
Yeah.
but ultimately, there wasn't a vacuum. A void always is filled, and it's usually filled with things that don't take you closer to your ultimate purpose, your why,
Yeah.
your dream, unless you're very intentional about it.
Well, and that's the quote that's I've seen often now as we record this in July 2020, that something to the effect of everybody who said, man, if I only had, more time, or if I had time off, or if I could work from home, or XYZ, I could get all these things done. And, we had the pandemic and we're all at home. We got that wish. And how many people didn't change anything or produce more. They said, well, obviously it wasn't the time issue, which we've, talked before. We all think, gosh, if we just had more time, if I could have an extra hour per day. And the study shows we have an extra hour per day, we end up just wasting it and doing what you said, coming back to our norm. And it's interesting, Tom, as I look at this, I wonder if I also was off-putting with it by framing it around, if you were offered an opportunity of a lifetime, because maybe that's stressful. I mean, we hear that and I want to think that sounds really exciting. Man, you're offered the opportunity, but that's still discomfort. What is it? What is that opportunity? What's it going to require of me? We are right now all so geared, me too, for comfort. And I think about that so often. I want to think of myself as this rebel, this renegade, that I love change, that I take risks. And I look at my life, it's pretty monotonous. And some of it I like. Even my workouts, my running and riding, my great loves, the majority of the time I'm on trails that I know, because I don't want to think about it too much, because I want to let my mind go off elsewhere, kind of get in the zone or the flow, like Stephen Kotler goes. And I'm not changing things up. If I go to a new trail, it's a very different experience. It requires very different things from me, and I got to pay attention. And there's benefits of that too, but it takes me out of the comfort. And right now, the weekly tasks, duties, and roles that we have, we're comfortable in. Maybe I was off-putting with that opportunity of a lifetime, because especially on Facebook, what do we want to answer? Things that are kind of exciting and easy. It's interesting. The question that I've got, 72 comments on it's actually a question for my What Drives You podcast. And it's, what reasons drive you to exercise and eat well and increase and or maintain your health and wellness? Well, everybody who's into health and wellness is excited, like I would be, to talk about it. Oh man, I ride, I run, I do nutrition because of this. These are my goals. That's fun to talk about. I think I ask a question here. Yeah, required a lot more thought and easier to bypass. So that leaves you and I, Tom, talking about this issue and I really wanted to break it into two parts. The aspect of, most people listening to this show, like you and me, are looking to do well in life, to do good in life, to do good for others. And they have chosen good things. They have a plate full of good things that is their schedule for the day. But to Zig's point, if there's so many good things, we ultimately don't have room for the great thing. For me, Tom, right now, I'm looking at the good things. What are the good things that I am going to have to back off of in order to do the great thing of finishing my book? I mean, I'm literally looking at that right now. I'm having to restructure and decide what I'm going to do to make that happen, because I'm procrastinating a little bit on it. Want to do it. It's exciting. I enjoy it, but it's hard work. And it's not as urgent. It's not yelling at me, and it's uncomfortable. It's not something I'm super comfortable in, or as comfortable in as doing. So what are some good things? And / the other side of it is, how could I be working smarter? And I got to admit too, I'm looking at my life and go, you know what? I could not change anything other than being more intentional, planning better, setting out my priorities better, not taking the moment. I mean, I can justify being on Facebook. That's where I go and post the questions for these shows. So I can justify doing that kind of. I could also write the question out and give it to my daughter and have her post it for me and have her bring the results, which she usually does too. I don't really have to go and look at it. I don't really have to go do that and also scroll down and see that that's a funny meme or that's a really neat quote. But I'm scrolling on, like you said, maybe last week, oh my gosh, and now 10 minutes has gone by, 15 minutes has gone by. So I'll throw that at you, that aspect of what things should we delegate, take out, say no to, boundaries, if we call it that. We just recently did a show with Nedra Glover Tawab on boundaries. So we can look at that and working smarter. Where do you see, I mean, even as you're working with your executive coaching clients, where do you see the need more?
So here's an interesting parallel. We're in the middle of the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And last week I was reading articles about these elite athletes, and there's something that I hadn't seen before, and I think they call it restriction training. Have you heard of that, restriction training?
Not by that name. Explain it. Maybe I know it under something else.
Maybe that's the wrong name, but what they do is they'll take a band.
Oh, resistance.
And well, no, it's a little bit
No?
different. So they'll take a band and they'll wrap it very tightly around the thighs or the biceps or a muscle group. They'll restrict blood flow.
Okay.
And then they will go all out in their exercise. So imagine a swimmer who is training for freestyle, and he's or she's going all out. Well, with the restriction training, in 5 minutes, you can get the same amount of muscle exhaustion as it might take you 25 minutes.
Interesting. Okay.
And then when you reduce the band and you take it off, or you put it at zero restriction, the blood rushes back in, and they say it has that benefit of clearing out the lactic acid and all the things that build up when you do it. And so what they're learning, it's kind of like cryotherapy for heavy weight trainers and things like that. You lift heavy and then you do cryotherapy where all the blood rushes to your internal organs, and then you get out and it rushes back out and it clears the toxins and the lactic acid. And so the people who really love it say, you know what? I can get the same equivalent output with 30% or 50% of the time and 50% of the calorie burn.
Okay.
Right. So if you're a swimmer who's having to eat 10 or 15,000 calories a day just to maintain your weight, and you're having to work out 4, 5, 6 hours a day, then those are two pretty huge reasons to check this out.
Yeah.
And so then I compared it to, isn't pressure or restriction, isn't that how we all grow in every area of our life? Right? Isn't the best work or the biggest growth that you see someone go through when there's pressure from all different angles and they figure out strategies to handle it? And so then I put that together, and there's a term for this, and maybe you know the term, and that is, how long does it take to get something done? And the answer is, it'll take as long as the deadline you put down.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true in my case, for sure.
So if you're going to give yourself a week to do it, it's going to take a week. If you're going to restrict the time and give yourself a day, it'll take a day. And so I'm wondering, when we start thinking about peak performance and we determine there's these positive actions we can take that will get us closer to our purpose, what if instead of trying to do more, right, add in more activities or dump activities that are neutral or not getting us closer? What if we just looked at the things that really make a difference And instead of giving ourselves a week to do it, we give ourselves 2 days to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of saying, I'm going to read this book in 3 hours, I'm going to read it in two, right? Instead of writing this in 4 hours, I'm going to do it in three. And we kind of restrict it. And not everything is one-to-one, right? Sometimes I'm going to go and I'm going to call 10 customers to have meaningful conversations, but I'm going to compress that time. That may not be as easy to do.
Right.
But is it the in running, it's called turnover. And so you can, somebody's gait or somebody's ability to reach a peak speed is how fast they turn their legs. It's probably the same in cycling, right? Somebody who's got
Cadence.
Yeah, just a faster engine, right? A faster engine, you can cover more ground in less time. And so maybe what pressure does, and right now in our marketplace with the whole thing of remote work versus working at headquarters, one of the big issues is when we onboard somebody new into our business, how do we pour into that person, the tribal knowledge that the people who've been there for years have through Zoom calls versus face to face? One of the benefits of working in a close quarters under pressure is that you have to ask people who've been there and done that what their experience has been. How do I get this done? And that transfers to you a lot quicker. It's the fire hose.
Yeah, this is well, and I appreciate you saying that there are some things that we can compact in. I think a lot. It was interesting you're talking about the sports stuff and the restrictive thing, which I had not heard of. We were just talking about watching the Olympics, and the cycling race was 6 hours, which I don't even want to watch a 6 hour, event. But to that, knowing that it's going to be 6 hours, and I was a pro cyclist, you have to build up the endurance. You can't short circuit that. If you're going to be out there for 6 hours, you need to be training your body to be able to function at a high level for 6 hours. We would even talk about that because if the race is 150 miles long, if I'm training, I don't have to train 150 miles. I need to train for the time period. My body it's the time, not even the output so much, because you're going to, in the race, you're going to be drafting and it's different, whatever, but that time. But my gosh, yeah, so many things. So it got me to thinking, Tom, what you just talked about there. It's been a while since I played that clip, but it's there's the famous one from your dad, from Zig Ziglar, about vacation, the day before vacation. That we all know that the day before vacation, man, we are incredibly productive. We are focused. And just like you said, we know this happens for me a lot of times because anytime we're going to go for a while, I've got shows to be produced. So I got to get them done ahead of time. And I do. I always do. Why don't I just get them done ahead of time? Always. I will give one caveat to that I do like the deadlines. I'm a deadline driven person. I'm self-employed as you. So I'm accountable to nobody really for doing my stuff. So I have to set deadlines and have other people in there to create some of that accountability. But I don't, so I get the concept of being focused, being smart, restrictive training, like you talked about. However, I also realized, man, I don't want to do that every day. I literally don't. But should we have time? So I want people to hear that and have permission to go, gosh, can we set up times that, on these days of the week or these certain times or these, this season, here's a project, here's a deadline, but understanding too, I don't want to work that hardcore every single day. We do need the rest. I do enjoy the days where I come in and go, man, there's not super pressure. I can catch up on some emails, or I can maybe even just ponder an issue a little bit and think. I really enjoy the autonomy of being able to have a lax day. And like yesterday, I'm going to do it today as well. I'm actually going to bug out a little early. There's not as many people at home. Go there. And yesterday I said, I'm going to go home and work from there. I didn't. I watched the Olympics. But I'm, it's one of the reasons I'm self-employed as well in that. But yeah, I like this discussions, and I want to help open up some of the opportunity for people to think about, okay, there's the things I can give up as far as literal tasks, and I can delegate them. I can say no to them. I can have boundaries there. And there's also the things, I guess we're still talking about a giving up, giving up of distraction, giving up of procrastination, whatever, for certain time periods and being focused. Is that a fair juxtaposition there? Not
Yeah,
just,
you've got
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
you've got my mind racing because
Okay.
there's a very strong principle in creating a positive habit. And in a positive habit, my definition of that's something that takes you, that you do over and over again, that takes you closer to your why, your dream, your goal, your aspiration, the project you want to complete, whatever that is. That would be a positive habit. And in creating positive habits, there's three things that we need in order to cement that in, that make it easier to cement it in. The first one is we need a trigger that says, I'm going to do the habit, right? And the second one is we need to do it. And the third one is we need a reward.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the day before vacation is like, hey, if you get these 12 action items done, you can go all expenses paid. And I think in the recording, Dad talked about Acapulco. That tells you how long ago that was, because I don't think anybody would go to Acapulco now, right? I mean, because it's dangerous there now.
Yeah.
But the idea was, if you get these 12 things done, you delegate them, you figure them out yourself, you put all the energy into it, whatever it is, then the reward is 4-day weekend, all expenses paid, chef in your house, trip on the yacht. We're probably going to get them done. And then Dad closes it off and he says, hey, why don't you go to Acapulco every day? And so this, I think, is a good, maybe this is the practical way of, instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to take all the slack time out of my schedule, right? I'm not going to watch Netflix. I'm not going to goof off on social media. I'm not going to chill anymore. I'm just going to get more work done. Maybe a better way to approach it is to say, I'm giving myself 3 hours to do this. And if I can get this done, shipping worthy, like Seth Godin says, good enough to ship, may not be perfect, but it's pretty close. If I can get this done before lunch, then you know what? I'm going to my favorite lunch place.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe what we do to up our game is, to me, it's called blood flow restriction training. That's what the athletes are testing out. And so what they're doing is they're simulating a pressure environment and they're going all out, but they don't have to do it for as long to get the same results. And so this is the same thing. I'm gonna, what would normally take me, 6 hours or 2 days to do in a project, I'm gonna get up early and I'm gonna hit it first thing. And if I get done by X, then I get a reward. And I think what'll happen is, in sales, we have a saying, the biggest sale a salesman or saleswoman will make is usually dependent on the biggest sale they've ever made.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, for these athletes, a lot of times, like one of the swimmers yesterday beat their personal best by 5 seconds. And you know what?
That's
they weren't
huge.
focused.
That's huge.
They weren't focused on their personal best. They were focused on, wow, there's a legendary Olympic gold medal champion, and I'm only a few seconds behind them. And the race is almost done. Can I hang? And so that's what their focus was. It wasn't beating their personal best. It was, I'm swimming with champions now. Well, guess what? The bar and this is a young swimmer. So the bar just got raised, right? The bar just got raised. And so now the mental expectation of what I can do, it's in the athletic world, the Olympic level, that percentage of a speed increase is ridiculous, right? Yeah. And how did that happen? It happened because the mind got focused on what was possible rather than what I've done in the past.
That is okay. I got to ask, I got to deviate here. What race was that? I didn't see that. Do you remember?
I
Men's,
think
women's.
I think it was the women's 1500 meter with Ledecky,
Okay. All
who
right.
won the gold,
Yep.
and the American won silver. The
Okay.
other swimmer, uh, and she just got focused on, hey, I made it to the finals,
Yeah.
and you know what? If I can have a good start, and that's like a, what is it, like a 30 or 40-minute swim? I mean, it's like the equivalent of a 6-hour bike race. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
That's a
except
longer.
for except for bikers, they can coast every now and then.
That's true. That is actually true. We do get a little coasting in there. That is, yeah, that is significant. So to look at that, so now, to go on that, the tangible aspects of this, I think this is stuff that we know, but we don't. I'm counting myself in here. I I really have to put some boundaries going to Nedra, Tawab's focal point. I've got to put some boundaries because for me to what I cut out, what I know I'm able to cut out when there is that deadline, when there is that focus, is things like social media, is emails, is chit chat. And I don't want to downplay chit chat. I need to do more of it because it is relational. It builds relationships sometimes, but that is one. Obviously, we all have entertainment that we do. I think we're at a time period where people feel more stressed out and busy than ever. And yet we know by stats, they're also engaging in more entertainment than ever. And I get it. I want to do that too. And I'm going to today. I'm going to go home and watch the Olympics. That is not a necessity for my life. I can pawn it off and say it's inspiring. It is, but it is just great entertainment, man. I get all the feels and all the fun. And, to do that, one of my primary things, Tom, I'm so grateful you brought it up though, is a reward. And I think we tend to be, as a humanity, consequence driven. We know that from a motivation standpoint, that generally we tend to respond or react to the stimulus of penalty more than reward. That's just basic humanity. But so often with the things, especially for what we're talking about here in the realm of personal development and business development, these are things that we want to do because we want to be better. There's not some big consequence out there. Obviously, we don't get it, but it's not like the job where the consequence is we get fired or we don't pay the mortgage, or there's not some acute reaction consequence from this. And so with this thing where there's not really going to be a bad consequence if I don't write the book, having a reward, as you said, that is big for me. That is one of the reasons where often with a project, I will literally take off from the family and go to some epic mountain bike trail area, and I'll camp or get a cool Airbnb or whatever. And I'm going to get up in the morning and, man, I am so motivated to be ultra productive and creative. And then I know I'm going to go on an epic ride. I'm going to have awesome food. And I'm going to treat myself with that reward. Or it may be something small, like you said, where for me, a good treat, because I generally just bring leftovers from the night before to my office. So a treat for me, sushi. You know this. You and I have had some great sushi together. That's it. It's going to get a great meal. But I do like that. It's putting that out there. And I think it's one that I see people not engage with a lot. Though when I ask habits, when I audit habits of the guests we have on the show, they are very often reward driven people. They know their rewards. They know their carrot and the stick things, and they have those out there. So when I ask about the personal spoke and the things that they do just for themselves, self-care in essence, a lot of them are pretty cognizant of those. And yet for people, for so many people, I think they're not as much, and they often may even feel guilty for setting those out there. So I think that's an important one that you pointed out, Tom.
Yeah, and it brings to mind another story. One of our ZLC speakers and coaches, she has a business, and she's a financial planner and helps people. And she made a core value decision. She's got 5 kids, and they're all at home. And she said, "You know what? I'm going to be done at 3 o'clock every day." So think about this. So did she do less? Did she make her clients suffer? Her business has grown. So what happened is she got intensely focused in her business between the start of the day and 3, and she started developing people on our team to handle the things that she was handling a lot more of, and her business has grown. And so her kind of that process that she went through is she said, you know what, the reward I want, because it's the most important thing in my life, is I want to have focused, guilt-free family time. And so I am going to get done before 3 o'clock, everything that needs to be get done. And if I can't do it, I'm going to develop my team to do it for me. And then on the rare occasion, if I need to get involved, I will.
Yeah.
Her business has flourished since that decision. And so I think what we're doing here is, and tell me if you're like me in this, you work really, really hard, and you have a great day, and then you do this again the next day, and then you do this again the next day. And then it's like a beautiful afternoon, and you're like, I think I'm just going to go head out and check it out. And you get out, and then you start feeling guilty because you should be in there working. Right. And I think a lot of us face that. So what if instead of that, we just said, no, that's not the way it is. The way it is we get the main things done now. And we do this, we'll call it restrictive productivity, instead of allowing ourselves all day to get it done. We say, no, I'm just going to take 6 hours to get it done. And then when we get it done in 6 hours and we look at everything that was planned and it's done, we go, this is unbelievable. And we go have fun, right? Conscious, free fun, full attention in whatever we want to do.
I'm laughing because I still struggle with that, Tom. At my age, I've been self-employed almost all my life, but I still have that perspective of, 9 to 5 during regular business hours that I should be working. I owe it to my family, to the country. I don't know where it's just the norm that I should be. And I'm aware that I often take liberties, but I'm aware of it. I'm aware of that little guilt bell that'll start to go off, and it's the middle of the day and I'm out here on a trail, and I can again try to justify it and say, well, it's exercise and inspiration. Man, I'm having fun also. I mean, I'm grateful that there's those benefits as well, but I'm having fun. And it's interesting that we struggle with that. It was Brian Dixon, who's the author of, I think the book is Start With Your People, that we had on maybe last part of last year. And when I asked him about habits, he says one of his rewards, Tom, is going to see a movie in the middle of the day, a work day. That's a reward for him. It's just a decadent thing because, I think it feels so almost kind of naughty, right, to do that. Well, so we talk about the things where we can work smarter, we can be more productive, we can be more focused. I think that we can all look at that. And I'm going to say, yes, that we can do that. Though I'm also going to say, I also enjoy the times that I have when I'm not having to be so focused. And I can, look at some emails and deal with some non-urgent things and not be so hyper focused. We don't want to do that every day. That's like with cycling, with any athletic performance, you cannot go full tilt boogie every day. There's got to be some recovery time. So I appreciate those times of productive recovery, we'll call it, work times there, but we can all work smarter. Now, the other thing is looking at our lives. And this is to the question that really to Zig's message about eliminating some things, but to the question that I posted that we didn't get a lot of response to, are there some activities in our tangible daily lives that we may need to look at and say they're good, but man, they're not great. And if I'm going to get the great thing done, if I'm going to make room for something greater, I've got to look at these. And my quick list, Tom, and this is me doing it as a husband and as a father, was thinking about common things that I hear that either myself are prone to do, or I hear people talk about. Volunteering. We have a lot of faith-based audience here, people that are doing things for their church, or they're working the homeless shelter, or they're, just being available to help friends. I mean, that is a good thing. I have definitely seen some people, though, put that ahead of some other great things in their lives. And even though it's a good thing, now I'm not telling anybody, don't volunteer, don't work at your church, whatever, but man, you can be, and I will pick on churches. Sometimes you can be sucked dry by a church, man. If you give an inch, they will take a mile, and you've got to be looking at your own self-care and the legacy of your own life over here. For me, kid activities is really big. Anybody out there with kids, especially non-driving age kids, and you look at, man, it's great to have them in all these in school and all these extracurricular things, time with friends, and you can suck up your entire life being a chauffeur. And we joke about that, but it's a legitimate thing. And I've come to the point, Tom, of sometimes looking at my kids and go, that may be great for little Bobby there, but man, the consequences of that or what that's going to not allow are pretty significant. And I need to look at that. This is a big family. It's not just him, and he is not more important than me either. And there's some volatile discussions to be had in there. There's housekeeping and chores. I've seen people do that. They get so caught up in, every Saturday, this has to be done. The lawn has to be mowed. The car has to be washed. This has to be done, or whatever. And then I've run into other people who have produced these great things to say, it was the day that I realized that nobody's going to die if my house isn't perfectly clean all the time, or my car's dirty or whatnot. Again, these are balancing things. I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. And then the other big one, Tom, the other big category that I had listed then is in our work. And kind of a muse that people look to out here is Timothy Ferriss with his 4-hour work week, where you delegate everything. It's always felt a little untenable to me, but conceptually, what is it in our work, whether you're self-employed or you are an employee? Of course, we would say everybody's self-employed, but whether you literally own a business or you're working as an employee somewhere, that what are the things that you could possibly delegate? I mean, my dad, I'm sure you've experienced this, Tom. My dad, as a career coach, has looked at a lot of people who were actually, his story is a lot of times they were done. They were about to be done with the job. They're just going to back off. It's killing them. It's too stressful. And he helped them look at it and look at what are the things that you excel at, that you are the best at. Can you get rid of the others? And even people then who have gone to an employer and said, look, I don't hate the job, but I'm struggling in it. I want to invest all myself in the things that I'm good at. Can we get some help and delegate the others? And some great stories, of that happening. But now to go to the self-employed person, and Tom, I'll raise my hand as somebody who oftentimes my biggest struggle is not wanting to give something up, a task, a duty, a role, a chore in my work, because one, I don't want to take the hassle and the investment of delegating it, because you got to find who's going to do it. Are they going to do it right? How do I teach them to do it? And I can go days, weeks, months, and I never take the time to do that, to take that investment of time that would save me hordes of time over here. But that's always one challenge. The other one for me is giving up, or the fear of giving up control or quality. And there are things that I want to do. And sometimes I've also realized, I kind of like doing it because it's a menial task. It's not that hard. It doesn't require it. And it's a crutch that I'm using to not do something else over here that takes more effort, that I'm gonna have to be brilliant in. And I can kind of cop out on myself and go, well, I got to do this thing, and realize, what, somebody could do it. I'm holding on to it because I want to, for a couple of different motives. One, not doing the hard work over here. It's easy, yada, yada. And I can also use to me, it's been a cop out a lot of times to talk about control or quality. Though one piece I'll offer to the quality aspect that I've absolutely realized, Tom, there have been some things that I've finally coughed up. I have delegated, and you know what? It actually happened. The quality was not as good as when I did it. And it freed me up to do something over here that far outweighed with benefit the consequences of that little bit lesser quality. So, Tom, I know you deal with this a lot in your own business and working with others, but those are some thoughts on the aspects of what Zig talked about. What are some of the things that may not be quite as important as the ultimate important things that we could absolutely, honestly give up, say no to, and stop, cancel, or delegate?
Yep. I'll just give a quick business owner example. By the way, we've got a Ziglar business owner boot camp coming up. Probably what month are we? We're in July, August. I think it's in September, coming up in September. And what we do with business owners is we say, look, there are 5 areas in your business. There's marketing, sales, operations, administration, and leadership. Okay. You're the owner, you're the leader. And so these are small businesses. So there's 4 areas. And in each of those, there's 5 areas. And in each area, there are three levels: doing the work, managing the work, and directing the work. And all of those report to the owner. Well, when you're a brand new owner and you look at that chart, the flow chart of who does what, your name is in every box. You're doing the work, you're managing the work, and you're directing the work, right?
Yeah.
And then you're having the conversations with all the other departments, which is you. And so we asked the question, which one of those areas should you delegate first? And so here are the common things. Okay. So look at it this way. Let's just make it real simple. The answer is let's delegate the work that we can outsource for the least amount of money.
Yeah.
And so the bottom row of doing the work, it might be $15 an hour work in marketing, sales, operations, administration. Managing the work might be $50 an hour, and directing the work might be $100 an hour. So as the business owner, I want to focus on $100 an hour plus activities. That's the high return on investment. And I want to outsource those. Well, which one should I do first? You should do and outsource the one that you're least qualified to do. So if you're a marketing sales individual, outsource operations and administration. If it's the other way, you outsource the other, or you hire somebody to do that. And then we still get a lot of business owners who say, yeah, but I like doing the work. You know, they might have an HVAC business or, you know, some kind of hands-on, and they've got calloused hands and they love doing the technician stuff. Not every day, not all the time. They're like, what? I'm not gonna be able to do what I love. You know, you might outsource. You might like writing, Kevin, but you realize that writing the weekly email isn't the best use of your time. You know, so you get a great copywriter who understands it. And so this is what we tell the owner. And so if you're owning your career, owning your own job, ask yourself this. There's a difference between having to do the work and wanting to do the work. And so when you start delegating out the things that you're least skilled at and the things that have lower return on your time, it's still, once you get all that done and you're turnkey and you've maximized that, if you want to go fix an air conditioner, go fix an air conditioner, right? If that's fun to you, you can still do it. But there's a huge psychological shift between I have to and I get to. And that's what we want. We want to be in the get to place with everything.
Well, and you pull out, gosh, one of the things I cut my business teeth on from Michael Gerber. I mentioned him in a show, gosh, maybe even yesterday. He's the author of the E-Myth and talks about so often he calls it the entrepreneurial seizure. Let's use your HVAC. And it's somebody who loves doing it, man. They enjoy it. They're really good at it, but they see that, hey, this much money comes in from the customer. I'm only getting X amount. I'm going to start my own business and go into that. Not thinking through the fact that now you are the boss. You have to run the whole business, and you may not have time to sit there and work on the air conditioners, the things that you enjoy doing that, and to really look at that. And to some degree, man, if that's what you enjoy, you may be best just to keep a job to where that's what you get to do day in and day out. Because if you want to do that as a business owner, you're either going to have to do all the other business on top of it, or hire somebody to run your business, and they're going to have the pay appropriate to running the business if that's not you. So, but what you said there, Tom, too, some of the things that, you just like doing. I find that so often. There's some things that I'm doing. I'm taking a lot of time to do it because I kind of enjoy it, but it is keeping me from doing the bigger thing that nobody else can do but me. So to all that, to culminate all this, I mean, a lot of people, I hope you're hearing this and it gives you some ideas, but you may need some help. I mean, a lot of people need help, especially those of you who are business owners, auditing your business and looking at what are the things, because I've never found a business owner, Tom, including me, who has a list of things that they believe that they cannot delegate. I always do. And I find myself holding on to them, and I'll talk to somebody like you and they'll say, okay, here's an opportunity. Help me see it in a different way that really opens it up. So get some help. And to that, I'll do shameless promotion. You just mentioned the Ziglar Business Owners Bootcamp. Folks, if you go to Ziglar.com and click on the events tab, it'll pop up there. And it is September 13th and 14th. As of this recording, this is 2021. Now, if you're listening to this years from now, hey, go to Ziglar.com, click on the events. There will be another one coming up. So go check that out. And they've got the events, products, and different programs that you can go see there as well. Tom, I was excited to talk about this. I was excited when I heard the clip from your father, Zig Ziglar, talk about this, because I just know that, of course, I see it through my eyes as a business person, but I do as well as a father, a husband, and somebody. There are so many things out there. And man, it's so easy to let the months go by without doing that non-urgent, but very important, great thing. And because I have so many good things. Again, they're good things. They're not bad things. They're great. They're very good things, but they're getting in the way of the great. So this has me motivated, as most of our shows do, to audit what I'm doing. How can I make better room and reward myself for that great thing? Thanks, brother.
Love it, brother. Thank you.